Hello, everybody. All right. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Coming off a weekend here. Hopefully, some of you caught the. We're now into October. Happy October as well. Hey, Charlotte. Greetings. Greetings. Glad to see you, my friend. If you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here. That would really help out. Also, get some more friendly people in here to engage and all that. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. And I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Well, since we do have an acknowledgement of somebody being here, thank you, Solid, for being here. I'll go right into what's on tap for tonight. So on tonight's episode of the Mikestand, of course, we're going to go over a couple articles, couple anime related articles tonight. One, Sean Schemmel giving his. Sean Schemmel, as some of you may know, of course, dub voice actor who provides the voice of Goku from Dragon Ball, as well as among some of the other pretty well known characters he's done. Include let me see. Yeah, I'm trying to remember because he's done stuff for both New York and Dallas. So that's the thing. He's done a lot of stuff over the years, but I think Goku's the thing he's known for more. Anyways, let's see who else. Let's see. Solid saying Leto seems to be on hiatus from his channel for what? I don't know what's going on. I don't think he's actually live streamed at all in quite some time. You're right on that. Solid. What's your favorite 2023 anime? Well, don't haven't actually watched any of the 2023 ones yet. Quite honestly. Let's see. Will you ever update your channel PFP? I don't even. I guess profile pic. Probably not. Not really. Did you watch Justice League 2001? Yes, I did. All right. So, anyways, as I asked if you guys could help out by seeing if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more people in here. So, aside from that, Sean Schammel talking. Oh yeah, on One Piece. Let's see. Trying to remember. Um, all right. For whatever reason, outside of Goku, I can't seem to. Even though I know he's been in a lot of stuff. I just can't. Let's see. He had a. Let's see. Yeah. Anyways, um, also, I think there's some release information coming up. Yeah, Crunchyroll confirms specific premiere date for Spy Family season 2. As of course, now that we're in October, of course, we're getting into the fall release season in Japan for the incoming animes. Among those, of course, the second season of Spy Family. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started since it did kind of start early. Um, Anyways, all right. So why don't we go ahead and get going here? Okay, since I can remember what I'm trying to do here. Yeah. Alrighty then, so here we go. Alright then. Alright, so Dragon Ball voice actor Sean Schemmel admits he's not a fan of Netflix's One Piece, says he's still, quote, not convinced, unquote, anime can be properly translated to live action. Nerdigans Inc., the article by Nerdigans Inc., published back on September 28th, which was, of course, last Thursday. Now, mind you, from what we've seen so far, the live action One Piece has been pretty successful already. That a number of commentators, including Yellow Flash, commented that it is actually a lot of people do like it. Hey, JR Exner is here. Hail Zenu and Xena, thank you, my friend. And if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here that would, who want to engage in this stuff, that would be appreciated. With that, let's go ahead and get into this article here. So, despite the rare success of such adaptations as Rurouni Kenshin, Kingdom, and One Piece, Dragon Ball series, at least in One Piece, we know why they're staying true to form and not like trying to modernize or westernize or what have you the content. But anyways, Dragon Ball series voice actor, the dub voice actor Sean Schemmel, still believes that it is inherently impossible to accurately translate any given anime production to live action. We just think to this as a whole. It's not always a good. Sean Schemmel, who is perhaps best known for providing the English voice of Son Goku and King Kai across the various American dubs of Dragon Ball. Now, granted, that's again the Funimation / Crunchyroll dubs, the Dallas-based dubs, offered his thoughts on the topic during a recent interview with Bleeding Cool. Speaking to Hollywood's abysmal track record with live-action anime adaptations, Schemmel told the outlet's Tom Chang, quote, "It's weird because I've kind of got an insider view, and I've watched Hollywood try to understand anime my entire career, and they still don't get it," unquote. Quote, "It's not until you see, and I'm not entirely sure anime genre trends will ever translate well to live action," unquote. He added, quote, "I'm not entirely convinced." Well, the problem is, too, a reason a lot of these more recent ones have been failing is because, again, they've gone away from the source material and like set off a lot of fans too. So, whereas in the case of One Piece hasn't. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. Let's see. Turning to Hollywood's latest take on anime, Netflix's One Piece, Schemmel opined, quote, "I've only watched part of the live-action One Piece, and I frankly think it's terrible," unquote. Yeah, he's in the minority on that, folks. He's in the minority on that. Quote, Dragon Ball Z, in brackets, live-action movie, bracket, Dragon Ball Evolution, was also terrible for a different reason, though, unquote. He then elaborated, quote, "They had switched directors halfway through before they even started production," unquote. Fully aware this his was the minority opinion. All right, I think there's a little typo. I think that should say fully aware that his was the minority opinion. I think that's how they meant to type it out. Schemmel explained that His issue with One Piece was not with the production itself, but rather the live-action medium's inability to fully realize an anime's less realistic elements. All right, well that might actually be a little bit more of a legit criticism. Yeah, sometimes it is a little bit harder to translate to live action from like an animation. You can make anything possible, right? You can, a guy stretches his face out. A guy gathers energy in his hands and blast it into the unknown or what have you. That's a little bit easier to do in an anime production than live action. So you might have a point there. Quote, it's interesting, and I'm sorry about my opinions, unquote. The Yu Yu Hakusho voice actor noted. Yeah, he was in Yu Yu Hakusho also. I just don't remember off the top of my head who he actually played, who he actually was in Yu Yu Hakusho. Oh, I remember now. He was Mr. Akashi, the kind of the rat face teacher. He provided the voice for the rat face teacher in Yu Yu Hakusho. That's right, Mr. Akashi. Quote, I feel as a public figure, I feel so nervous about even saying in smaller quotes, I don't like the One Piece live action very much. Smaller quote. Oops. Give me a moment, folks. I'm gonna have to put music on. I forgot to. Oh boy, I'm going brain dead again. I'm forgetting to. Do not. I'll be right back. Right then, sorry about that. I figured I'd also put on the light right now. I'll wait till later. Anyways, so getting back to the article here. Let's see. That's not necessarily the crew and cast fault. They're probably all talented. That's more of the execution and in terms of the genre translating. Now, granted, from what we have seen, though, from a few clips I've seen and from the way Yellow Flash, I think they have actually done a pretty good job adapting the more unrealistic elements or the more fantasy elements into it. Quote, once we see a real bona fide attempt by a high budget studio handling the effects, they do an anime because you also got to reconcile a big part of anime, unquote, explained Schimmel. Quote, a big part of the style is giant eyeballs. Well, giant eyeballs, what a lot of the Warner Brothers people would have called those wild takes. That's been around all of animation history. You go all the way back to the 30s for that. But yeah, but anyways, it makes a big difference in the style. When you're shooting anime, everybody's human beings with normal sized eyeballs. But anime has these giant eyes that have fascinated everyone for decades. Well, yeah, in Japan it's not wild takes. They do actually have bigger than usual eyeballs. But I think that's a detail though that when people are watching a movie are not going, they're not going to get that hung up on. I mean, yeah, maybe in anime they do make the eyeballs bigger, but maybe if you're looking at it from within, within a canon, right? Within the world that they're in, maybe they are normal sized eyeballs. You know, so it's part of the style, and that alone, plus the hair, special effects, and subject matter, can be. Unquote. Drawing his thoughts to a close, Schimmel told Chang that ultimately, quote, quote, I see so much stuff going on and it's all mainstream. I still don't feel like Hollywood higher ups are ever going to get it until all these kids who grew up in it get jobs doing that and start doing that too. Well, and in all fairness, I think the studio that's doing this, Tomorrow Studios, is actually based in, I think, somewhere in the South Pacific, I believe, like Singapore or something like that. Singapore or Philippines, somewhere around there. So that might not even be Hollywood per se, But in support of his theory, the voice actor pointed out how, as made clear to him by the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes director Roy Burdine, quote, the last season of Picard, the showrunner, in brackets Terry Matalas, was a giant fanboy who ended up growing up around Star Trek or was on set assistant Next Gen, unquote. Quote, now he's digested it so much, you've got this fantastic last season of Picard. I don't even tell people to watch the first two seasons, unquote, he recalled. Quote, my point about anime is the same thing. Once you have somebody like that helming something, the test will then finally be, we've got the right person in that slot. Well, mind you though, here's the thing that Sean probably doesn't understand too. One of the other things that has made the live action One Piece series a success is the fact that Oda has been involved. He's not just they got his approval for like just about everything they wanted to do. If they wanted to make changes, they had to go through him. Oda was a significant part of the production here, unlike Watanabe for the Cowboy Bebop, live action movie, right? We saw what happened there. So that's kind of where you had Oda involved. So I mean, he makes somewhat of a good point, but part of that too is making sure that you're staying true to the source material too. When you start putting your own impetus on the source material, that's what's going to chase a lot of people away. So, anyways, let's see where we at. We're 18 minutes into this. Okay. Quote, will the genre translate to live action? Unquote. The man who has voiced Goku for nearly a quarter of a century concluded, quote, I'm not convinced it will yet, but I could be wrong for sure. Again, it goes back to the idea of, okay, if he's talking about will it translate, if you have, like in the case of the One Piece, if you have the creators involved, you don't try to like change up the source material for quote unquote modern audiences, okay, then yes, it should actually translate. I think with One Piece, they may be proving the point that they can translate well to live action. It should be noted that despite Schimmel's belief that anime's quote-unquote style is impossible to capture in the real world. Numerous productions have shown that some progress is being made on that front. From the live-action Gintama film, rather successfully recreate. I mean, if they're talking about the actual artistic aspect of it, then yeah, that part might be a little harder to, like what they were talking about, the big eyeballs, right? You know, that's the way they draw it in the manga and in the anime. And as I said before, you can do anything with manga or anime. You know, it's a little bit harder though to see that in the real world, right? You know, so from the live action Gintama film, rather successfully recreating protagonist Gintoki Sakta's messy blue hair, James Cameron's enlarging the titular heroine's eyes in his 2019 take on Alita, Battle Angel, to Luffy's use of his gum gum abilities in Netflix's One Piece, it's clear that Hollywood has, at the very least, left its days of turning the Kamehameha into an impotent burst of air far behind them. I guess that's one of the criticisms they had for evolution, right? So yeah, but I ultimately think here that yeah they're making strides, and a big part of it too is making sure that you're being respectful to the source material. You're involving the the creator of the source material. You're not just bringing him in as a consultant, you know, just so you can say, "Oh, yeah, we had him as a consultant, so our film is good." Even if it doesn't really resemble the anime, in any way, shape, or form, hey, we did have the consultant in here, and so he worked on it. So if he felt like he could work on it, then even though what we came to find out later, of course, Watanabe was not overly thrilled with the Cowboy Bebop adaptation. you know, um, I think one of the big things was trying to turn Dave Valentine from a femme fatale, using her wiles to seduce men to getting her way, into a plus size icon. Just doesn't work. You know. Anyways, so that's all for that article. Let's see. So we're at 23 minutes now. And thank you for whoever did drop the like. I do appreciate that. So anyways, let's get ready to move on to the other article we're going to do tonight. And if I feel there's time, I might add another article. I feel there's time to do so. All right, so here's the next article we're going to get into, another anime article. All right, so Crunchyroll confirms specific premiere date for Spy Family season 2. Now, Spy Family's been a pretty popular series going around. Um, article by Nerdigans published back on the 28th, which was, I believe, last Thursday. Now, Spy Family is about a secret agent spy named Lloyd Forger, or that's the name he goes by in the show here, who, in order to his latest assignment, has him basically trailing a very elusive mob boss or something to that effect. And in order to try to get close to him, of course, he decides to kind of set up his own family. He basically he marries an assassin named Yor, and then they adopt a daughter named Anya, who happens to be a secret government experiment in in um, in psychic abilities. You know, um, now Lloyd and Yor don't necessarily know. Like Yor doesn't know that Lloyd's a spy. Lloyd doesn't know Yor's an assassin. But they somehow come together. And the only one who kind of has any idea that that they're all like, they're all like the reality of it because of her abilities is Anya, the little girl. Um, but posing as a family, and enrolling Anya in a prestigious private school to where, serve to kind of try to get close to the mob boss's family through, I guess, his daughter who happens to attend that same school. That's essentially what Spy Family is all about. It's from what I've heard, from what I've seen and heard, it's a pretty fun anime to watch. It's gonna be interesting. When I do finally get around to watching it, it's gonna be very interesting to check out. But with that, let's see. Nerdigans Inc. Okay, so with less than a week until Spy Family's highly anticipated return, Crunchyroll has declassified new information regarding the Forger's next mission, including, most notably, its official release date. And now, as I said, you're going to probably, over the next couple weeks here, we're going to probably be hearing a lot about releases, as, of course, October is the fall release time for animes, in Japan. Meaning that many anime around this time, in October, get released, on Japanese TV. So let's see. There's little Anya right there, who is voiced in the Japanese by Atsumi Tanazaki, compares to Henshin in Spy Family Season 2 trailer. Adapted from Tatsuya Endo's best-selling manga, Spy Family will begin its second season by closing out the Imperial Scholars Mixer arc before then proceeding to take on the manga's Cruise Adventure arc. So, all right. So, centering on the Thorn Princess herself, this arc will see Your Forger. I guess Thorn Princess, that's her alias as an assassin, Thorn Princess. Your Forger, who is voiced in the Japanese by Saori Hayami, who, of course, also provided the voice of Kocho Shinobu in Demon Slayer, assigned to protect the life of one Olka Gretcher. The last living member of the Gretcher mob family, after an internal dispute kills her father, the gang's patriarch and three brothers, Olka has found herself the subject of a hit put out by the organization's new leader, Leonardo Harpoon. Now, this particular plot here reminds me of a plot they used, kind of a similar plot they used for Black Lagoon, and there's I think a 2 or 3 episode arc in that anime where they kind of had like the daughter of a mob family who had to be protected by the protagonist of the series. With assassins in the world seeking to claim the enormous bounty on head, Olka and her son decide to seek asylum in a foreign country. In service of their survival and freedom, Olka not only hires Yor as a bodyguard, but also chooses to make her exit via sea. Securing passage for the group aboard the cruise ship Princess Lorelei. Or Prince Lorelei. Once aboard, It's game on for Yor as the ship is soon discovered to be crawling with an army of assassins, all of whom she'll have to fend off until the group next makes landfall. Sounds like a very interesting story, doesn't it? And if you haven't already, if you can like and share this, see if we can get some more friendly people engaged. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let me see here. All right, so let's see. Featuring more of the series' signature intrigue, mystery, and of course, adorable Anya-isms, Crunchyroll has confirmed that they will begin simulcasting the second season of Spy Family in all of its territories upon its officially premiered date, October 7th. Is that this Saturday? Of course, that's also the same day as my birthday. I turned 48 this Saturday, so not only that, but the second season of Spy Family will be premiering as well. Woohoo! So in addition, Crunchyroll will be producing dubs for Spy Family Season 2 in English, Latin American, Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese, German, French, Italian, Castilian Spanish, Russian, and Arabic. The premiere dates for these are set to be announced at a later date. And there's Your Forger right there, of course, as we previously mentioned, voiced in the Japanese by Sayori Hayami. And that's all for that. So let's see, where are we at on time here? 32:25. Let me just check something here real quick. You don't really try to do too much on rumors, and that one we're not going to do. Let's see. Yeah, we'll save that one for tomorrow. Let me see if we just close it out here. Let me see if there's anything interesting over on Bleeding Full. Might be of some interest here. I'm just looking for a quickie that should take us no more than. Let's see. Oh, that's actually quite. Considering we're actually going through. All right, maybe we'll take a quick peek at that because, of course, as some of you know, I'll pull it up here in a moment. Considering that we're right now going through some of the comics of 1939, this article I just you know spied might be interesting to look at here. So the world of 1939 is not so different from today. Article by Dr. Andy, published on October 1st, which of course was yesterday. So let's take a look at what his analysis here. So for those who have never seen a copy of Captain America Punches a Nazi, Adolf Hitler on the cover of the first issue of Captain America Comics 1940, I've been aware of this since the 1970s. I first saw a copy of Captain America #1. Is one of those comics that every collector wants at about 800,000 in good condition, a mere $250,000 in much worse condition. It is too expensive for most, myself included. Um, what I didn't know until a few weeks ago is that Captain America #1 is not Captain America Volume 1 Issue 1, it is Volume 2 Issue 1. If it is Volume 2, then where is Volume 1, #1? It turns out that Captain America comics, published by Timely Comics, the precursor to today's Marvel Comics, took over the numbering of Popular Digest 1939 after it failed. Popular Digest is the first publication of any kind from Timely Publications, and thus is the first Marvel publication, though it isn't a comic. All right, so there's Captain America. So there's a Captain America #1 is well outside my budget, but at $20, Popular Digest #1 was affordable. I bought it as a novelty a few days ago. It arrived in the mail. It lacks the pizzazz that makes Captain America and other timely comics so valuable, but it has the distinction of being the first. Yeah, well, okay. Popular Digest sounds more like it was a magazine. It was a regular magazine, not even. Because as we all know, the first comic book from Timely was Marvel Comics #1, and then eventually that became Marvel Mystery Comics. So, um, a quick look at the cover tells us um, that Popular Digest #1 has more value than that. The table of contents lists at least 3 articles that might be relevant today. 1939 perspectives on education, abortion, and Hitler. I just read those articles and have to say, I'm glad I bought this digest. So, class of education, class of. So, did he actually. Oh, let's see. Education, class of 29, alumni of Depression, New York Times Magazine. Oh, it was the last class to leave college in the days when there were still a pretty good reason to expect that a bachelor's of arts or science could find a job, and conversely, the first to learn that that expectation was no longer founded. Unquote. This article focuses on statistical indicators of employment success, jobs lost during the Depression, employment figures for college graduates, and certainly high number of young men and women who died during the time, and depressed wages and career attainment after the Depression was over. This article reminds me of concerns I had when pandemic shutdowns closed every school in the country in May of 2020. The class of 2020 graduated, but with relaxed graduation standards. No testing in some cases, and no physical graduation ceremonies on campus grounds. By March of 2021, schools had been closed for almost a full year, but the disruption continued for as many as 168 million students. Even the New York Times realized this was illogical, writing that it was a quote unquote bad idea to close schools. Well, yeah, the reason that the liberal New York Times doesn't like the idea of because if kids are at home being taught by their parents, then it's a lot harder to indoctrinate them. And we did see some situations where, you know, where teachers, having a chance to look into some of these homes, try to really pressure students and parents to kind of go their line of thinking, and it just didn't work out for them. And then here's, I guess, the pandemic quote. The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world, unquote. A quote by Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. Now, the WEF, from what I understand, is a globalist type organization, if I understand correctly. Anyways, regardless, it had happened already, and every student in America and many other places around the world were affected. By the time schools resumed in-person classes, they had changed in other ways also. Before, they had made an effort to be quote unquote inclusive, but the focus was still on education, or seemed to be. Now they are more concerned with advancing quote diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI). DEI is a disingenuous attempt to introduce racism, bigotry, and intolerance into schools while pretending to do the opposite. And of course, that bigotry, that racism, bigotry, and intolerance is towards Caucasian white people. You know, I don't see how any student can derive a worthwhile education from a school invested in DEI policies. So this is Dr. Andy Tuggy, of course. On that basis alone, I am comfortable recommending that all federally funded schools lose their funding immediately. DEI policies are promoted by the National Board of Education, who should also lose 100% of funding and be disbanded. Wow. I think a lot of people would agree with you there, dude. I wouldn't recommend college or university to anyone right now, and not until substantial steps are taken to both improve the quality of education and limit the scope to make it more efficient. 4 years of college is excessive for some professions, not enough for others. One size fits all length of study is impractical. Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you probably should focus more on vocational schools and trade schools. They probably give you more marketable skills than college does. In the place of federally funded schools, school buildings can be privatized, and parents can choose the type of school their children attend. This might lead to an increase in parochial schools. Not a bad thing. A funny thing about the way quote unquote science is taught these days is that it leaves God out of the picture. This is an important and crippling omission. It is true that educational standards in America have been declining for decades, but never so precipitously and in the last 4 years. Employers know that the classes of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and possibly later classes as well face formidable challenge not faced by their predecessors. Because of, again, the focus on DEI garbage. Our economy has been sundered by progressive policies designed to have exactly that effect. Entering the workplace and society with less preparation than prior generations does not bode well for recent graduates. So yeah, actually, let's see. All right, I'm gonna cut this down. I'm just going to um, just focus on the parts where he's comparing 1939 and just give the talk about the article. I'm just gonna cut this down a bit because I was trying to keep it a little short. Okay, so abortions and the law, the nation. Quote: a sentence of from 1 to 5 years for a sentence from 1 to 5 years for second-degree manslaughter is the mildest legal penalty when death follows abortion. In New York, it is 1 to 10 years for first-degree manslaughter. Florida and Georgia are up to 20 years for third-degree murder. it goes up to life imprisonment or the death penalty in other states such as Louisiana, Kentucky, Illinois, Mississippi, unquote. So I think this quoted right here is from the Digest article he's referring to. In this article, abortions are described as the quote the most profitable specialty in the medical profession, unquote. Despite the legal penalties for practicing, to ensure the financial bounty that goes with the practice, doctors of the time employed full-time lawyers and other associates for the purpose of keeping themselves out of trouble. When trouble came, abortionists had an array of methods to get out of it. So basically, we're not going to go, but basically, they were talking about that abortion was big business back then. I said I'm not going to just going to read like the first. Yeah, I'm not even going to continue this article. A little longer than I thought it was going to be. So, anyways, as it was my intent to try to keep things short there. All right, so now what we're gonna do? We're gonna move right into the wrestling wrap up. As first off, WWE is preparing for this weekend's Fastlane. They did have a show, an NXT No Mercy this past weekend, on Saturday, I believe, the 30th. Going back to that, some of the big matches on the show, including a couple of title changes that happened. Of course, Becky Lynch retained the women's title over Tiffany Stratton in the main event. They crowned a new NXT North American and NXT champion on the night, in which Ilya Dragunov defeated Carmelo Hayes for the NXT title, and Trick Williams defeated Dominic Mysterio for the North American heavyweight title. The family retained the NXT title, and Noam Dar retained NXT Heritage Club. And a couple other matches from No Mercy pay-per-view. Baron Corbin defeated Braun Breaker, and that was the only non-title match. So with that, of course, WWE also has, as I said, Fastlane coming up this weekend, and let's see, matches set for this weekend's Fastlane on Saturday. Let's see. In the main event, John Cena and LA Knight will be teaming up, take on two members of the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. Seth Rollins defends the WWE World Heavyweight title in the Last Man Standing match against Shinsuke Nakamura. Io Sky defends the WWE Women's title, the triple threat match against Asuka and Charlotte Flair. And then in a six-man tag match, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits will be taking on three members of the LWO. So that's what's going on for Fastlane this weekend. Now, on the AEW side of things, AEW just had, their Wrestle Dream. Some of the highlights from Wrestle Dream this past weekend, of course. Now, Wrestle Dream was promoted as a tribute show to the late great Antonio Inoki, who died exactly a year ago, or a little over a year ago, back on October 1st, 22nd. Antonio Inoki, of course, former WWF World Martial Arts champion, had the very famous boxer versus wrestler, or infamous, some people might call it infamous, boxer versus wrestler match with Muhammad Ali. The main event of the pre-show saw Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed retain the World Trios titles over the mighty TMDK trio of Bad Dude Tito, Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes. TMDK, also known as the Mighty Don't Kneel. Other matches on the card included a mixed eight-person tag in which Tina, Billy Starks, Keith Lee, and Satoshi Kojima defeated Diamante, Mercedes Martinez, Shane Taylor, and Lee Moriarty. Claudio Castagnoli defeated Josh Barnett, and Luchasaurus defeated Nick Wayne. And this would have a very interesting way of playing out a little later on. Now on the main show of Wrestle Dream, I saw MJF in a handicap match retain the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, which I was totally surprised with. Basically, no titles changed hands on this show. And that was a little bit of it. I thought one, maybe two. I was kind of hoping one would, but I'll get to that a little later. Of course, MJF decided to defend the ring rather than relinquish the belt. Decided to defend the titles himself. Because Adam Cole had suffered an injury. His partner, tag team, Ring of Honor World Tag Team partner, Adam Cole. So, Eddie Kingston successfully defended his Ring of Honor and New Japan Strong Ring of Honor World and New Japan Strong Openweight titles against Ring of Honor Pure Champion Katsuyori Shibata. Chris Statlander retained TBS title over Julia Hart. In a number one contenders four-way match, the Young Bucks won the match over the Guns, Austin Colton Gunn, Hook and Orange Cassidy, and the Lucha Brothers, Penta El Zero Miedo, and international champion Ray Fenix. Now, Ray Fenix also has a upcoming on Wednesday's Dynamite, will be defending his recently won AEW international title against Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks. We'll see how that goes. Swerve Strickland was able to get the win on Adam Page. Ricky Starks defeated Wheeler Yuta. Bryan Danielson defeated Zack Sabre Jr. in what was billed as the battle of the two best technical wrestlers of modern times. The Don Callis family of Sammy Guevara, Will Ospreay, and Konosuke Takeshita defeated Chris Jericho and the Golden Lovers, Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi. FTR retained the AEW World Tag Team titles over Aussie Open, which will set up another future match with a team that they've had a long rivalry with in the Young Bucks. Now, apparently during that match too, Mark Davis of Aussie Open suffered, I believe, a broken wrist, so he might be out for a while. So we'll have to wait and see. And in the main event, Christian Cage was able to stave off the challenge of Darby Allin, a best 2 out of 3 falls match. This was set up as the main event to set up, of course, the debut of Adam Copeland in AEW. Now, for those of you who don't know, Adam Copeland is formerly known as Edge, being billed as a rated R superstar in AEW. Now, the reason for that is because apparently the WWE let the copyright to that particular name expire, and Copeland was allowed to use it. So this looks like it might, and basically in the final fall there, Christian got the final fall when Nick Wayne, who was Darby Allin's protege, basically turned his back on Darby and hit him with the belt in order to set up Christian for the pinfall. So that's all that's going on there. And then in the last bit of wrestling news before we get into the this day in each history segment. Sammy Callahan's contract with Impact Wrestling came up, and he is now no longer with Impact. Now there's no hard feelings on both sides. They just couldn't come to an agreement. So right now, of course, Sammy Callahan is a free agent. He is free, as far as I know, he's free to look into other opportunities with other companies. There has been some talk that there's interest in him both as a wrestler and possibly as a producer. So we'll just wait and see what happens there, where he lands, where he ends up, in that. So that's all the wrestling news I got for you. So now, today being Monday, October 2nd, 2023, let's take a look back this day in each history. History! Let's see now. 96. 2018. 1993. And 1993. Okay. So, anyways, as we now prepare. So, first off, we're going to go back 40 years. As 40 years ago today, Art Mick and Tatsunoko's Genesis Climate Mospieda premiered on Japanese television on this date 40 years ago today. On this date 40 years ago today, Art Mick and Tatsunoko Productions Genesis Climber Mospieda premiered on Fuji TV on this date in 1983, 40 years ago today. So there you go with that one. Now getting ready to move on to the next piece in each history as we head forward to 1993. On this date in 1993, Hanna-Barbara's The Halloween Tree, an animated fantasy drama television film, premiered on ABC on this date in 1993. On this date in 1993, Hanna-Barbara's The Halloween Tree premiered on ABC. Getting ready to move on to next piece in each history. On this date in 1996, which would be 27 years ago today, the 40th issue of Icon from DC's Milestone imprint went on sale on this date back in 1996, 27 years ago today. So for $2.50, was 32 pages. As part of the Icon versus Blood Syndicate storyline, the title of the story was "If He Hollers, Let Him Go," written by the late great Dwayne McDuffie, penciled by Mark D. Bright, inked by Romeo Tanghal, lettered by Steve Dutro, with Michelle Brand Wrightson doing the coloring on this. So 27 years ago today, the 40th issue of Icon from DC's Milestone imprint went on sale on this date. And finally, 5 years ago today, WWE held its SmackDown Live event at the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon. The show saw Asuka defeat Peyton Royce in the main event. Shelton Benjamin defeated Daniel Bryan. Randy Orton versus Ty Dillinger never got started as Orton attacked Dillinger before the bell could even ring. And R-Truth and Carmella defeated Andrade Almas and Zelina Vega. So that happened 5 years ago today. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here tomorrow night with more news, more niche news. Also, don't forget this Friday I'll have RJ Carter in as my co-host. We'll be looking at comics that went on sale in December of 1939. This week we'll be going over. We'll basically be going over Billy Batson / the original Captain Marvel / Shazam's first published appearance in Wiz Comics #1, among other characters. So with that, I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.